Okay, good morning. So I was just, the lessons to me are things that you actually experience. When I take the time and make the decision to utilize the lessons that are given to me, something happens within my mind and heart that frees me from the world of space and time. And in a sense, I just fall into it and rest there because I'm not a body. I'm free. I'm still as God created me. And when you start to get the hang of this, you do see how you're turning to your own reality for the truth of who you are is, in a sense, an enlivening and rejuvenating experience. Whereas, as Jesus says here, he usually says we're not slaves to time. Being a slave to time and thinking that we have to live under the pressure of something external to us, and its ability to determine whether or not we're successful in being who we are, is definitely a sick illusion, I might add. So God's name reminds me that I am His son, not slave to time. Unbound. I'm unbound by laws which rule the world of sick illusions. Free in God, forever and ever one with Him. Um, Now, obviously, the concepts that are being presented in this are diametrically opposed to the concepts that you've sort of utilized to be a body and think that the body and the identity that you make for yourself, the persona that you make for yourself, are real. So obviously, there's one or the other is true. You're either a body and you're free, or you're not a body and you're a slave to everything that's external to you and the demands it makes on you in order for you to survive here. And the only reason why you would be surviving here is in order to get to the point where you die and no longer have to do this. Now, to recognize that God is love would render everything prior to that, what we were speaking about, as absurd, because why would a God of love create you just to wear you down for a long enough period of time where finally you lose all your vitality and die? That's not loving whatsoever. That's why we have to free our mind from all of our thinking, and this one, I'm a body, I'm not a body, I am free from still as God created me, is essential. Because just go into your mind for a second, and this is what happens when I sit and I sit and I take the lesson to heart and I sink my mind into my heart. Well, first what happens is, if I'm not a body, I'm free, then there's nothing that I'm ever going to say, because everything I'm going to say would have something to do with the body. And if I'm not one, nothing I have to say that has anything to do with the body, including the fact that it isn't real, in a sense, is true. How do I try to say this in a different way? Okay, if I'm not a body, to try to describe the experience of what it is like to be not a body would necessitate utilizing the body as a reference. And in the experience of knowing that you're not a body, that you are free, for you still as God created you, in your creation, in reality, there is no reference other than that, because outside of it there is nothing. And there's no falsity in your mind to recognize. So there is no way to talk about the fact that you are not a body in the world of space and time, except through some sort of comparison of what you are in relationship to the body, or what your relationship to not being a body as a body would be. And none of that is true. It's a release from the complete idea that a body is a possibility. Now, you could begin to sink into that and get very comfortable in the recognition and especially the freedom and the release that you begin to experience when you allow yourself to not be a body. How do I say this next part? Um, what I'm trying to help you understand and to talk to myself is, okay, let me look at it this way. In the instant when the dawning of the recognition that you are not a body comes, it comes without reference to the body. Okay? In reality, you don't have to say, I'm not a body, I am free, because there's not a body to not be, nor has there ever been a thought of it. So, now when you sit and you rest in this idea of not being a body, you can feel the release and the relief that comes, especially if you are willing to allow Jesus to be who he is as your Savior, and recognize that you have a function that God would have you fill. God would have you filled within the plan of atonement in order to bring about the dissolution of space and time in its entirety. Okay, now you can feel the release from not being a body, just what that entails, and all the things that seem to be part of the world of space and time slowly start to, in a sense, just float away, because without a body you have no ability to participate in the world of space and time whatsoever. Now, as you feel the joy of that release, what I want to remind you is the joy that you experience in reality will far surpass the joy that you're experiencing here at the mere acceptance of the concept. Because right now you're freeing yourself from all the memories that come with the past thinking that you were a body, and I'm glad that's not true. Now, that's joy, that's relief, that's this incredible news that you can rest in. Imagine the joy in the kingdom when there is no body to relate to, and it is not a release from being a body, but it's the pure joy of being who you are as God created you, with no concern whatsoever. That's what we're heading for as we participate and play our role in fulfilling God's plan for salvation. And so we're preparing our minds for an instant that really can't be prepared for, because in the world of space and time there is nothing to compare it to. Yet in our heart and our mind we have this template that as our mind opens, we begin to align and converge and match up and begin to feel the security and the joy and the peace that accompanies our taking our place and fitting into reality exactly where we were created to be, as we were created to be, and functioning in reality as we were designed to function to create. Because all joy comes from doing God's will, and God created us to create with him. So here, the doing of God's will comes from the practice of forgiveness and releasing ourselves and our brothers from all we thought we were, based on the idea that we were bodies and we were slaves to time and space, and we were bound by the laws of the world, in spite of the fact that they didn't feel right and they felt like we were constantly being asked to sacrifice. this is all that we're being released from. All those ideas begin to release and, in a sense, unattach themselves to the identity that we built, so that who we are in the purity and essence of our creation begins to become available to us in our recognition, because that which we aren't is beginning to just float away in the inability of our mind to identify it with truth, and in our newfound ability to choose to let it go, because it is not real and cannot participate in helping us fulfill our goal in space and time, which ultimately becomes the only thing of any value here, which we talk about as salvation, our only accomplishment. And we lose the ability to, it becomes a source of amusement, that space and time could have been, in a sense, that which we use to judge ourselves and judge against our true self, and judge against the joy that we were created to be and the love that we were created to be, because we found ourselves failures in our ability to fulfill and live by the laws of space-time, because they were designed to not be fulfilling to who we are as souls and as the Spirit of God in reality. So today I'm not a body, I'm free, for I'm still as God created me. The name of God is my inheritance. The name of God is my inheritance. God's name reminds me that I am His son, not slave to time. I'm unbound by laws which rule the world of sick illusions, free in God, forever and forever one with Him. I'm not a body, I am free. I am still. And in that stillness I find out that I am as God created me.